Hello everyone, welcome to the HSI Bible study. I'm Glenn, I'm joined by Shefali again. How are you, Shefali?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So in our last class we looked at deception and how Jesus forewarns, do not be deceived. And let's see what Jesus is going to forewarn his people. What is the upcoming destruction that is inevitable, and how you should deal with this, and what is in it for us, and how do you interpret it, and remember keeping Jerusalem in mind. Jesus was always speaking about Jerusalem, the destruction of Jerusalem, but we also look at how it can be a forewarning for us who are in the future, and how it can, that we can also face the same fate if we do not heed the voice of the Messiah. So we looked at take heed that no one deceives you, verse number 4. Now let's go to verse number 5. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. So let's look at all the literal interpretation of the text first, what it meant for in that time. So many shall come. Now in Acts 5 verses 36 records that there were people like Theodas who arose, giving himself out to be somebody, and the number of men, about 400, joined him. So you see, he began a group and like a kind of a revolution, and 400 people joined him, as the Acts record. But he was slain, and all who followed him were dispersed and came to nothing. So you see, such things actually happened, and was recorded in the time of the apostles. Verse 37 will say, Acts chapter 5, 37, after him Judas the Galilean arose in the days of the census, and drew away some of the people after him, and he also perished, and all who followed him were scattered. So you see, such groups arose in the time of the apostles. When Jesus said many will come, but you notice that eventually those groups fell away, and therefore even when the group of Christians arose in those times, the leaders said that if this is going to be one of those groups, it will eventually fall away. But we know that the church flourished. Acts 21 verses 38 will record that are you not the Egyptian who recently stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 men of assassins into the wilderness? So you see, there was an Egyptian also who led a revolt. He was the one who attracted people to him. In fact, in Acts 8 verses 10, there was a person called Simon Magus, if you remember, the magician, Simon the magician. It says in verse 10, they all give heed to him, from the least to the greatest, saying, this man is that power of God which is called great. So he was called as the power of God, and he was considered great among them. And they gave heed to him because for a long time he had amazed them with his magic. So you see, this was another person who came and who drew people away from, drew people to him, and he was considered as like a Christ or like a God in his time. And he eventually wanted to buy the same power of the Holy Spirit from Peter and John when they saw them having such great power, but which Peter and Peter or Paul was the one who did not want that to happen, did not allow that to happen. This is why this word called simony comes from Simon. Simony is the act of buying spiritual things using money. So you want to earn your way into heaven by paying money, which the church forbids. So there were such people who they were the Gnostics. The early church sort of say they were the Gnostics, and so many other people who sprang from the family of Simon, this Simon Magus, and they proclaimed himself to the Jews to be the Christ. Therefore Jesus had already warned in John 5 verses 43, another one shall come in his own name, him you shall receive. And if I come in the name of the Lord, you are not willing to receive me. So they were willing to get drawn away by all the other false followers, by carried away by their teaching. And even Saint Augustine calls these people as the Antichrist. These are people who lead you into false teachings. Then that is the one thing. Many will come in my name and saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And something for us to ask, because that is the literal sense, and this happened in those times of the apostles. These deceptions were taking place even till the time Jerusalem was destroyed. How do you apply in our times? Even today, in today's world, you have people saying, come to me, I will give you everything. And they will ask you, you pay this much, you will get what you want. And there are some people who claim to be God, even in today's world as well. So what kind of do you get deceived easily? There are some people say, come to my meeting, you get healings, you will have deliverance, and all of these things will be available. Come to me if you're going to difficulties, come, and are we people who are already always getting swayed away by these kind of captions that people put or teachings that people offer, or are we rooted in what we believe firmly? There are some people who tend to easily get carried away when there is some healing, people run away.
Yeah.
When people run to that, flock to that place.
Yeah.
Whenever there is a great preacher who comes, whom we know has got various gifts, we flock. When there's the preacher whom we like so much doesn't appear on the stage, we don't come for the meeting because we know that we're not going to get anything. So what kind of people are we? There are some people who come only for mass to listen to a particular priest only. Are we that kind of people? There are some people who will move when there's communion time. They will only run to the line where there's a priest standing. What is the kind of mentality that we possess? That only shows how mature we are. We are so narrow-minded, not understanding what our faith is all about. Sometimes we all do have our favorite preachers because we like what they say. We all do have a favorite priest who give great sermons. Or priests, I have my choices that if I want the mass to be celebrated, I want this particular priest. Yes, I do have my choice. I do also have my choice that if the sermon has to be preached, it should be this particular person. But I don't come with the intention going on to my roster and saying, okay, this particular, there's a roster for all the priests put in the sacristy over here in our parish. So we don't go searching, this priest is celebrated, so I will go for this particular. No, we go with an intention. Even for prayer meetings, people only come for prayer meeting if, say, Anil is there in the prayer meeting, or if that particular preacher is there. But if this person comes, we are not interested. If Manjula is there to conduct inner healings or in a meeting, everyone flocks to it. So what kind of people are we? Do we go with the intention to listen to the voice of God or to listen to a preacher? And are we attracted to preachers, to healings, to deliverance, or are we attracted to God? Because sometimes, this so-called attraction can be an addiction, an unnecessary addiction. But if you are more addicted to God, then wherever we are always attuned to the voice of the Lord. So because God can speak even through a non-Christian to put some sense into you. I've seen that in my life. God can even speak to you through your spouses at home, for example, or your family members. But are we attuned to the voice of the Lord? In every single thing, we have to have maturity, develop good maturity, and have a balance between what we believe in and why we believe. So therefore, Jesus says, "For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and deceive many." So are we people who are really get easily deceived by what people say, or are we firm in what we believe in, what we stand, and what the church teaches? Second, then let's go to the next verse. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. In today's world, when people see wars, famines, earthquakes, they all immediately say, the one thing that comes to mind is end of the world. Because that is what floats around so easily, that is floating around today's world. These are the thoughts that float around. This is the mentality of people. But Jesus said the end is not yet. In our last class, I spoke that we should not get carried away by these things, because when the end of the day for us is the day when we die. And when will we die? We do not know. You can die at a very young age, like how saints like Maria Goretti and all died, or you can die at a very ripe old age. So it depends. But be prepared all the time, because whether you're a youth, you say, "Oh, my time has not yet come." But who knows? Your time is next day. So you can die as a youth, you can die as a child, you can die as an infant, you can die as an old person. So we do not know, but Jesus, be prepared at all times. When you hear of wars and rumors, now wars and rumors, or some other version of the Bible say reports. People send reports. Oh, this is happening in this part of the world, and the end of the world is going to come. And we hear these reports, and fear grips us. In fact, it says that one of the commentaries says these reports or rumors are often more miserable than the battles themselves. More worse than even the wars that we hear, and more thoroughly torment the mind with fear of evils to come, even though they do not come. So it puts a false fear in, even though they are not to come. We hear of there's a war between two countries, and we think that's it, the beginning of World War III, or we automatically assume this is going to happen, and fear comes into mind. This is another sign that Jesus gives, that prior to the destruction of the city, there will be tumults, there will be wars, there will be seditions, and the Jewish historian Josephus shows that all these things took place even before the destruction of Jerusalem. So wars took place, and these reports, false reports, were already floating before the destruction of Jerusalem in the year AD 70. So then, take heed, Jesus says, the Lord says, that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So when Jesus says that this all will come, so we have to be prepared.
Yeah.
So in our mind, we have to be prepared that these are bound to come. False reports are bound to happen. Rumors and reports of wars are bound to happen. But do not be troubled. So many times Jesus says, do not be troubled, do not be troubled, do not fear. Every message, anytime you see Jesus, he will have to have this particular phrase: do not fear, do not be worried, do not be troubled. And this is something that we have to, this is the what you call the consolation for each of us, or in fact that is a good news for us. In fact, Jesus is commanding us, do not be troubled.
Yeah.
You should not get troubled, you should not be shaken by all these things, because these are bound to come. So so in a way what he's saying, through the fear of the enemy, do not depart from my faith.
Yeah.
Do not let these things depart from what you believe. Stand firm. Or because of this, do not give up your preaching. He's speaking to the apostles over there. Remember the group of apostles. Do not allow these things shake you, but continue to preach the good news for the apostles over there, and confront all these fears and opposition boldly, and proclaim my faith and proclaim my gospel, and continue, because these things will come, but the end is still not yet. There's still more to come. And so this is the command that is given to the apostles, but for us too, all of us, whatever we are doing in our normal work, continue. Do not stop. Oh, the world is going to end, so I have to change my way of doing things. I have to live like no. You continue normally. Live your life. Continue to do what you're doing in a daily duty. The world has to end. The world will end. But if you are not prepared, then there is something for us to fear. But if we are prepared at all times, whether it comes or not come, you're always constant, you're always steady, doing what you're doing, in season, out of season. You're preaching the gospel, in season, out of season. You're continuing the good work that you're doing wherever God has planted you. We hear of recessions happening in certain countries, people losing jobs, and what is going to happen to this country. An unnecessary fear, wherever we are living. Oh, the job situation is bad. Does it inflict fear in you? What is going to happen to this country? What is going to happen to that government? So let not these things disturb you. Be prepared at all times. This is something for us to take into heart. You will see all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. But the Greek version of the Bible omits the part, the end is not yet. So what it says that the end of Jerusalem and the temple, and all the battles and the evils prior to the destruction of both, has to happen. But the end of one battle or the trouble will be but the beginning of something greater one. Something greater is going to come out of it. So Josephus actually says this actually happened at the siege of Jerusalem. So what is actually happening is the end is not yet. Even though the temple was destroyed, and Josephus predicted the temple was not destroyed, it was destroyed, but the end is not yet. The end of the world is not yet, because it has to continue. The gospel has to continue to be preached. Be not troubled, Jesus said. Do not lose confidence. Have courage. Be prepared for even greater evils to take place, because this will all have to pass. And we are also living in today's world where there is so much of evil happening even today, and the world is still going on, and the world will continue to go on till Jesus comes back and on the final day, and he will judge the living and the dead. So let's just conclude over here and think about what we can take away from this. The first thing that we can take away is how mature as a Christian I am, and do I get carried away by any teaching or what people say, or am I firm in my faith in wherever I am, and I will continue to live a life of maturity and not get carried away with something and run somewhere else. The second thing is you will hear of wars and rumors of wars and see that you are not troubled. Do we get easily does fear grip us? Do we get easily disturbed? Does fear grip our hearts when we hear of certain things that people report? Look at the newspaper and say, oh, the upcoming destruction of the world, or maybe there's on the headlines of the newspaper, the end of the world is nigh. Do we get easily disturbed by it? What kind of people we are? That's why Jesus, the Christians in those days, Christians heard the voice of the Lord and were prepared. And even Jesus told them later on, we will see that flee to Judea. And they heeded the voice of the Lord, and eventually they were protected from the siege in Jerusalem or the destruction in Jerusalem. And it is reported not even one Christian or a follower of Christ was even killed in the siege, except for the Jews. So but eventually what Jesus says in the end of the chapter 24, be prepared, because no one knows the hour of the day. And that is what we have to do. This is something that we have to ask: are we prepared, or are we living in fear? If you are living in fear, there's something else, that something needs to be corrected in our life, the way we think. So all of this that we have to check as we as we reflect on today's message. Although this is prophetic for Jerusalem, but it's also something for us in our life, how we look at life and how we confront the difficulties and trials and sufferings that are coming up in this life, and how we train our children and teach our family members, and how we educate one another, rather than allowing them. When you see people living in fear, how do we go and reach out to them is something that we all need to ask. But the key word is being prepared at any time, because you never know when all of this will happen. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Shefali. God bless you. Have a nice day.